Hey guys, what's up? I'm Connor, aka the Music Fanatic here, coming to you guys with a review of another album. This week I'm going to be reviewing, in my opinion, one of the best albums that come out of the 1970s. It was released in the year... Sorry about this, it doesn't say. I'm going to just throw it out there and say this album was released in the year 1971 and or 1972. It's the most successful album by the 70s hard rock and heavy metal band Deep Purple. It's their sixth studio album. The name of this album is Machine Head. So, Machine Head, not the thrash metal band, they're good, but the sixth studio album by the band Deep Purple was released, as I said, in 1971 and or 1972, and it's their most successful album. It has their most successful songs on there that most people know, including the song Smoke on the Water, Highway Star, and Space Truckin', but for an album that has only 7 tracks on it, there's really no dull point in this album whatsoever. Deep Purple is a band that, in my opinion, is a really early example of what I would call a jam band. It's a band that they have lyrics and they have songs and their songs have meaning and all that stuff. But when you see Deep Purple live, if you ever see them in concert, I had a chance to, but I didn't. It's not really the lyrics and the lyrics of the song, and it's not really the vocals, even though the lead singer of this band, Ian Gillian, I think is what his name is a very good singer. It's more the instrumentation. You listen to a Deep Purple song to hear a really good guitar solo, for a keyboard, aka organ solo, even a bass solo or a drum solo. You listen for the instrumentation behind a Deep Purple track rather than the lyrics. Lyrics on this album and the vocals are very good and are a high point of this album, but the instrumentation on this album is probably the best part of the entire album. Now, the number one thing about this album, and also the meaning behind the song Smoke on the Water, I'm just going to explain the meaning of the song Smoke on the Water right now, so I don't really have to when I actually get to the song, I guess. The interesting thing about this album is the recording process for this, because in the recording process of this album, they were actually originally in a mobile studio recording van and stuff. It was a mobile recording studio that they took with them that they actually got from the Rolling Stones, and that's from the part of the song, in the song Smoke on the Water, it's like we all went out to Montreux. Montreux is a place in Switzerland to make records with a mobile, which is the mobile studio, and in the recording they were actually they were inside the mobile studio, and they were also going to go into the this casino type place, and in the recording of that, they were actually going to go in there, and they were going to make it kind of have a little more of a live feel, in that they were going to be in there pretty much in like the empty place and all that stuff, and they were going to record in there when nobody was in there. And the day before they were going to record, Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention, which is the band that Frank Zappa was in the 1970s and 60s, and that's his band, so they were in there and they were performing pretty much the last show of the entire casino for its like a live show era and all that stuff, because it was in December when they were in there, so it was a cold Switzerland winter, and it was just the day before it was going to close for the general public and for live performances and stuff. But in the middle of the set, I think even in the song King Kong by them, which is a song by the Mothers of Invention and Frank Zappa, someone, as this says in the song, pretty much some stupid person with a flare gun, fired off 2 shots and hit the ceiling, and the whole place went up in a blaze. The band themselves said that it wasn't that much trouble getting out there. It wasn't really that stressful because it didn't look like that big of a fire. But once the fire really started, it was the biggest fire they had ever seen up till that point in their entire lives. And it was just pretty much the casino burnt to the ground to ashes. And also, I'm going to have to actually look up the lyric right here, because this album actually comes with a poster / lyric sheet right here. And then the song Smoke on the Water, it says a funky Claude was running in and out. It's actually the name of the guy who owned the studio. Claude, forgot what his last name was, but he was running in and out pretty much to save people to get him out of there before they died in the fire. And then pretty much after that happened, they couldn't record there, and then they ended up at a place called the Grand Hotel in Montreux, and it was when it was closed because it was in the winter. So they were pretty much in a giant empty hotel recording an album in like the corridors and like different rooms and all that stuff. And Quite an interesting concept for recording an album, and also the meaning of the song Smoke on the Water. And yeah, so I think that's pretty interesting of how it was extremely stressful for them to record this album, because there was like different places they had to go to. The casino they were going to record it at burnt down to the ground. They had a mobile recording studio with them, and then they just ended up recording it inside of a Grand Hotel in Montreux, Switzerland. So yeah, if I got anything wrong, please put it in the comments, and don't be an asshole about it. But keep in mind, I am just now getting severely into Deep Purple, so I'm not gonna know literally everything about the band. And there's definitely a different vibe behind Deep Purple when it comes to this album. If you guys if you guys don't know who these guys are, you definitely should check them out. In the review of these two guys, it's called "In the Court of the Wendon King." It's two guys who record albums and stuff, and they recorded this album. There's definitely a more commercial sound behind Deep Purple on this album, and that is because the band was looking to have more commercial success and be a more popular band, because before that, Ian Gillan actually described Deep Purple's music as this awesome underground band that had awesome high energy concerts and stuff. For the recording of this album, rather than having every song like the original Deep Purple way of them making music, rather than having really fast vamped instrumentation, just having Ian Gillan behind the vocals just screaming at the top of his lungs throughout the entire song, instead they wanted to have a more commercially successful sound, and wanted to have a more, they wanted more people to listen to them, just rather than being this little underground band that performed in clubs and stuff. So that's the different vibe that you will get behind this album rather than their earlier work. And that's actually prominent in the very first track on this album. I review albums track by track, and the first track on this album is called Highway Star. Now, the beginning of this song is it's a 30-second build-up with just guitar and bass, and when the song finally gets into it, it has probably one of the most memorable guitar riffs of the 1970s in general, even though I think it's just one chord over and over again, and then very high register singing from Ian Gillan and maybe someone else from the band. And then the final of the song gets into it, and I'll describe the way that the chord progression sounds on this and the instrumentation as it's kind of a classic thing from the 1970s. I will point out 3 songs right now that I think have this. Paranoid by Black Sabbath, Communication Breakdown by Led Zeppelin, and Highway Star by Deep Purple. Have you ever noticed that some of those songs back then kind of have that whole like, listen to the song Paranoid, you're gonna hear that. You're gonna hear even on the drums, like that, and it has the instrumentation of just like they're having like a really driven type guitar riff, and then it breaks into it with just like a chord every once in a while. It kind of has that same thing in all 3 of those songs: Communication Breakdown, Paranoid by Black Sabbath, and this song Highway Star. You really will listen to this song more for the instrumentation than you will hear for the lyrics. If you're a person who likes cars and likes driving and all that stuff, this is the perfect song for you, because the meaning of this song is pretty straightforward. It's about a guy who loves his car, loves his girlfriend, and loves the way his life is going and all that stuff. It's just a song about a guy who has a car that he really likes and thinks that he can beat anyone with it. It's pretty straightforward. The keyboard solo in this song is just as important as the guitar solo in this song, because once the part where the keyboards come in, it's kind of like the guy from Deep Purple who's the keyboardist. John Lord is pretty much a guy who is a keyboardist, but he likes to play like it's a guitar. It's prominent on a lot of songs in this album, and this is one of those classic examples, because his keyboard solo lasts maybe a little bit over a minute, and then the guitar solo in the song is about a minute and a half, and then it gets back into it, and it ends with, I think it ends with a guitar solo, but I'm not 100% sure on my memory of that. But yeah, I think this is a phenomenal song, one of the greatest openers to any song from the 1970s, and this song being the commercial success it was, being the most popular album by Deep Purple, and being pretty much one of the influential albums when it came to the heavy metal movement. It's a great way to start off the album, and it's a great song to get anyone into Deep Purple, in my honest opinion. Next song on the album is called Maybe I'm a Leo. Drum fill is the way that this song starts, and it probably has one of my favorite guitar riffs of Deep Purple in history besides Smoke on the Water. It's the whole dun, 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 like that. I think it's inspired by another song. I just can't remember the name of it at this point. And in my own honest opinion, I think that the guitars and the drums are playing two different time signatures, because the guitars and the bass and everything are pretty much playing the exact same thing, but in the background the drums are laying down a different beat that has a different feel behind it. Like, you could nod your head along to the guitar riff, but like if you were to go nod your head along to the drum part, it's a lot slower than the guitar part. So maybe it's in a different timing, but I'm not too sure. This is a more slower paced song than some of the other songs off of the album that are notable. It kind of has like a more bluesy type feel to the song rather than Highway Star, which was just like vamping hard rock music and everything. This is kind of just a slower down one. It focuses on almost the same guitar riff throughout the entire song. Even the guitar solo in the song is a bit slower and focuses more on the feel of the guitar solo rather than like shredding and stuff. And again, there's a keyboard solo on here, but it's not really as memorable and as good as the one in Highway Star. I think that it's okay. It's not amazing. This is not really a low point of the album, but it does, when you compare this song to some of the other tracks on the album, it's lukewarm, if you really want to say that word for it. I still really like the song, but it's not really one of the high points of the album. Meaning behind this song is really loose on what I'm trying to figure out. They say maybe I'm a Leo, but I'm not a lion. Then they kind of talk about a girl that was taken away from a guy, but then it's also talking about like he made her cry and everything. So was she taken away from him and now he misses her, or did he cause her to get away and everything? Anyone who knows the actual meaning behind this song, I'd love to hear your opinion in the comments. I just can't figure it out that much. But yeah, so not really one of my favorite songs off of the album, but I still do think it's a very good song. It ends with a guitar solo and actually goes in to the next song on the album, which is my favorite song off the entire album, Pictures of Home. Paranoia and homesickness is really the vibe of the song that I get from Pictures of Home. I think it may be talking about like Ian Gillan and the rest of the guys from Deep Purple when they're out on the road touring, and when they're out on like the road like recording new albums and all that stuff, they have like the paranoia of like, oh, we got to get our songs and we got to have everyone like us, and also the homesickness of, you know, it says Pictures of Home, and pretty much it's like pictures of home in the back of his mind, and he's homesick, and all they really want to do is go home, and they're kind of sick of going out and recording all these songs and everything, but they feel like they have no other choice because they want to be doing this. The reason why this is my favorite song off the album is because I feel like this song showcases every single person in Deep Purple at their best instrumentational wise. Ritchie Blackmore, Roger Glover, and John Lord are really the showcaser on this entire song, in my opinion, because when the song starts off, well, even Ian Paice, however the fuck you pronounce his name, Peace, the drummer for the band, is really how the song starts off with a really extremely memorable drum solo. It kind of blew my mind when I first heard it, because, you know, this was before double bass was extremely popular in metal music, and it almost sounded like he was using a double bass at the beginning of the song, but it's really just toms and snare just over and over again, it's a bunch of triplets just repeated over and over again until the main riff of the song comes in, and Ritchie Blackmore on guitar really showcases his guitar, what is the word I'm looking for? His guitar skill in this song with the guitar solo, which I thought was awesome. The keyboard solo in the song is great as usual, because, you know, Deep Purple is really known for their keyboard solos, and there's even a bass solo in the song. It's a really short bass solo, but honestly, when it comes to bass solos, it's one of the best ones I've heard. Usually when you hear a bass solo can either be two things: really good or really boring, and this is a really good one. I feel like Roger Glover is really showcased on his bass skill. Like, throughout the entire album, he's just sitting back and you can't really hear him, and he's not really all that noticeable, except for the song Highway Star in the beginning, because when you hear the guitar and the bass playing almost pretty much the same thing at the same time in the song Highway Star, and also kind of the same thing of Pictures of Home, he's showcased in his bass solo that he does. This song is really focused on the instrumentation, and it really showcases it in the lyrics in some way about the homesickness and the paranoia and everything. But much like other songs by Deep Purple, this song is mainly good because of the instrumentation by Ritchie Blackmore, Roger Glover, and Ian Paice, and John Lord John Lord and how they play their instruments, and how I feel like this is the best song of the entire album, instrumentation wise, and pretty much just in general, this is my favorite song off the album. The next song on the album is called Never Before. Interesting thing I learned about this song is that this song was intended to be released as a single, and I think it was released as a single, but it didn't really set well with audiences when it was released. It was supposed to be released to be this massive, great single that was released off the album that was going to get everyone to the album Machine Head, but not really all that many people paid attention to it, and the people who bought the album, some people I've heard actually skip over this song, and I don't really see why. I think it's a really good early hard rock, heavy metal pop song in a way. It has its blues elements to it. The real meaning behind the meaning behind the song is pretty straightforward, of a guy who had a girl that he really loved that left him. The harmonized vocals during the chorus of this song are very memorable, and I really enjoy them a lot. I feel like the beginning riff of the song, when it finally gets into it with Ian Gillan singing his vocals, like the blues type thing they have behind this song. I don't think it's one of the best songs off the album, and it's definitely not in my top 3 favorite songs off this album, which would be the top half, which I'll explain later. There is one thing that I will say, though. I have the 7-track version. Apparently there's an 8-track version that exists, and the song that's on there is called When a Blind Man Cries. I've heard that song, and honestly, if that song was put in this place of, in the place of Never Before, rather, like, if the songs were to pretty much go Highway Star, Maybe I'm a Leo, Pictures of Home, When a Blind Man Cries, Smoking Water, Lazy, and Space Truck, and I feel like it'd be a little more memorable. And there is some things that I will say I kind of can see about why people wouldn't really hook onto this song in a way, because, you know, it was released as a single, was meant to get people really into the album, and if they're trying to get into the album Machine Head by Deep Purple, I don't think the song Never Before is really a song that you should be listening to, but I still think it's a very, very, very good song, and definitely maybe one of the highlights off the album. I just feel like the song When a Blind Man Cries would have been a better place for this album. Because originally I heard this, so don't kill me, Deep Purple fans. I heard that the song When a Blind Man Cries was originally supposed to be in the place of Never Before, but they decided to go with Never Before, and when they released the 8-track version, they decided to put it as the last song. So, I don't know. Pretty good. It's a really good song, though, and I think you should listen to it. Just listen to some of the more memorable songs off of the album rather than this one. Next song on the album, as I already explained the meaning behind the song, I don't really need to anymore. The song Smoke on the Water. Riff behind the song is one that everyone in their entire life has ever heard before, and anyone who tries to learn how to guitar always learns how to play it the exact wrong way every single time. For the love of God, it is played staccato, ladies and gentlemen. It is not played da 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 da. That just sounds terrible. It's da da da. Dun, 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 dun. It's like, imagine if you were listening to a song that was played on bass or guitar or maybe trumpet or some other instrument, and like when it's supposed to sound really like short, like a dun, like imagine if they were to go dun dun, like play it longer than usual. It just doesn't sound good if they were to play it like that, because this is one of the best guitar riffs, I think, in music history. It's the one that everyone knows, almost everyone knows how to play, and it's just, yeah, one of the best guitar riffs of all time. And originally, I guess they actually made the instrumentation for this song before they actually wrote the lyrics to it, and Ritchie Blackmore actually made the riff to the song, or someone else from the album, from the band, I don't know. He made the riff behind the song, and no one really paid all that much attention to it because they thought it wasn't going to go anywhere. And they finally decided to go with that for the song Smoke in the Water. I heard that when they released the song, they were really surprised how many people actually started like falling in love with it and all that stuff. Because when they released it, they thought nothing of it. They just thought, oh, this is going to be a song about how we recorded the album and how this casino burned down and all that stuff, but people actually started falling in love with the song. Yeah, the song Smoke in the Water, not really all that much to talk about. A song that is extremely memorable and everyone hears about. I mean, everyone knows about the song. Everyone loves this song. The guitar solo for this song is great. Everything about this song is great. It's one of the best songs probably ever made. And yeah. Next song on the album is called Lazy. For a song that is literally just talking about a guy who is lazy and doesn't really want to do anything, that's the vibe I get behind the lyrics of this song. It's a very, 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 very good song, and showcases, as I said, it's another song that showcases every single person in Deep Purple at their best, and it is the longest song off the entire album because it clocks in at a massive 7 minutes and 22 seconds. My iPod, yes, I had to look it up. But in that 7 minutes and 22 seconds, there's not really a dull moment to be found on this song. It is a almost an 8 minute long track, but it feels like 4 minutes if you really get into the song. Now people say time flies when you're having fun. This is one of those songs that really exemplifies that saying, because this is a very fun song to listen to. It's a song that you could just sit down, listen to, and just chill out while listening to it, and it'll just pass like that if you get really into it. It's one of the longer songs by Deep Purple in their early career. I mean, I'm saying that, yet the song Child in Time is over 10 minutes long. But it showcases pretty much everyone in Deep Purple at their best, and probably is one of the best songs off of this entire album. The final track on this album is called Space Truckin', and really the vibe I get behind the song is really just a song that's talking about space travel. And it's another song showcasing everyone at their best, especially Ian Paice. How the fuck do you pronounce his name? Because he has a drum solo in this song. Unlike every other song off the album, this song, yeah, it actually features a drum solo. Oh yeah, one more thing about the song Lazy. I think it's either that song or another song. I think it's the song Lazy. It actually features a harmonica solo by Ian Gillan. And for all intents and purposes, it's the most bluesy song off the entire album, the song Lazy. And I feel like the harmonica solo just adds an extra bluesy vibe behind the song that I actually absolutely love on the song. But also the song Space Truckin', the drum solo on the song is definitely probably the highlight of the entire song. Whenever I listen to the song Space Truckin', I'm always just wondering when the drum solo for the song is going to come up, because it's my favorite part of the entire song. But yeah, it's a song about space travel, and it's a really freaking great song. And yeah, so there's only about 7 tracks off this album, and if I were to cut that in half, it'd be my top half favorite songs off this album. I usually always, if it's an odd number, I'm making an even number, so I guess in 7, I knock off a number, that'd be 6. So my 3 favorite songs off of this album, in no particular order, would have to be, this is going to be very hard, because almost every song off this album is fantastic: Highway Star, Pictures of Home, and Lazy. I know what you're thinking. Oh, you didn't pick Smoke in the Water as one of your favorite songs off the album. Only reason why I didn't do that is because it's the song that pretty much everyone knows by Deep Purple, and it's just a song that, if you listen to a Deep Purple song, you're probably going to hear Smoke in the Water. I do think it's a fantastic song, one of the best songs by Deep Purple, but I just feel like Highway Star, Pictures of Home, and Lazy, and some of the other songs off this album would probably knock that song off just a tad bit. Other than the 2 songs, maybe I'm a Leo, which I actually think is a phenomenal track, so maybe not that one or Never Before. There's really no dull moment on this album, and if you listen to it and sit down with it, it's going to pass just like that, because there's only 7 tracks, but in those 7 tracks and in that nearly 40 minutes, you're really not going to be bored throughout the entire time on this album. If I were to give this album a rating, I would probably give it a solid 8.5 out of 10 and or a 9. So pretty much a strong 8 to a light 9 is what I would give off this album. I know it's one of the best albums ever made. I'm probably going to get a lot of shit for not giving it a fucking 10 out of 10, but it's my own opinion. If you look at the front cover of this album, it's actually one of the best known front covers of any album ever. It's pretty much, it says Deep Purple, says Machine Head, has the members of the band. Then on the back, it has the same thing, only pretty much backwards. It's pretty much this, but like backwards, and then it has, looks like the head stock to a bass. Right there, it has the Warner Brothers Studios record, because this is on Warner Brothers Studio, and the 7 tracks off the album. The gatefold on this is different pictures of the band in the studio. Has the names of the tracks right there. And as I pointed out, I got the vinyl edition of this album, and it came with a lyric sheet / poster. Has all 7 tracks on it, and yeah. By the way, small little thing that I wanted to say about my album. I don't know if you guys have this problem also, but I definitely have this problem. So I don't know if it was just like a fault that they made in the pressing of the album, but the song Never Before ends prematurely. Like, the version I have, the song is supposed to be 4 minutes and 1 second, and it ends with a guitar solo. No, it ends with a keyboard solo. But the weird thing is that the song is about 3 minutes and 30 seconds for me, because when it gets to the final keyboard solo, for some reason, you probably can't point it out by that, in the middle of the keyboard solo, the song kind of just stops, and then the auto stop on my record player just stops the song. Can anyone explain that to me? Is that actually how the song is supposed to go? Really confused. But anyways, as I said, I think this album is an absolutely phenomenal album. I think it's one of the best albums that ever came out of the 1970s in general. It's definitely, so far from what I've heard, my favorite album by Deep Purple. You should definitely listen to it if you have not. This is an album that every single record collector ever should own on vinyl. And yeah, final rating on the album, I've settled it in the back of my mind. I'm going to give this album a strong 9 out of 10. So yeah, that's pretty much it. If you liked this video, hit that like button. In the comment section below, leave me suggestions of albums I should listen to, albums that I should get, and albums that I should review. And that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching this video. 3, 2, 1, I'm done. Subscribe.